microfinance, and more. And then we will also have an impact evaluation workshop, as well as a Q&A with other student impact funds around the country. So definitely stay tuned for that. Tickets are not live yet, but they will be soon. So be sure to follow us on social media at NU Impact so you can be notified once they go live. So the next slide, Jordan. I will now hand it off to our moderator, Charlie. Charlie is a Northeastern alum as well as an NU Impact alum. And he's in a few impact-oriented co-ops and is now currently working in the sustainable infrastructure space. So without further ado, I will hand it off to him.
Thanks, Spencer, and thanks everyone for coming out. Glad you could join us. So Spencer mentioned, NU Impact alum, currently working at Invenergy, which is a renewable energy development company with their finance group. So we have three great panelists here today. First, we have Izzy Spiegel, who's currently co-oping at Massachusetts CEC on their clean tech venture investments team. She's also co-opted at Wellington with their sustainable investments team. We also have Andrew Schmidt, also of NU Impact, currently co-oping at Wellington with their sustainable investing team as well. Also in the past, co-opted at Arrow Street Capital and Advent International. And then finally, we have Evan Massa, who's also currently on co-op at BCG with their energy marketing team, and then also has co-opted at Energy Sage. So also has some experience with the clean energy space. So I'll let the panelists briefly introduce themselves, maybe starting with their name, major, hometown, and then brief overview of their, actually we'll get to that second, and we'll talk about maybe the impact related topic that you find yourself most often reading about, most interested in, and perhaps most interested in pursuing in your career after Northeastern. And we'll start with Izzy.
Sure. Hi, everyone. As Charlie mentioned, my name is Izzy Spiegel. I'm a fourth year at Northeastern, originally from Jacksonville, Florida. I started actually in the NUN program in Montreal, so that was cool. But currently studying entrepreneurship and finance with a minor in global social entrepreneurship. And then one, I guess, impact area I like most, I think it would probably be solutions to economic inequality, just because I think that touches so many different areas, from socioeconomic status and history around that, to education, to job training, career development, even like touching into healthcare. So I feel like that's just a really big area that has a lot going on. So definitely like that.
All right, thanks, Izzy. Andrew, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Andrew. I am a fourth year finance major with a minor in sustainable business practices from Westchester, New York. And I'm currently co-oping at Wellington on their sustainable investment team, or their sustainable investment research team. And then the impact area that I'm most interested in, I guess personally, maybe like, this is more of like just a general sustainability thing, but like zero waste stuff. I went to like Clean Land in Cambridge, which is a zero waste store there. And there's a lot of like new products and like initiatives to go zero waste on like a smaller scale and a larger scale. And I think that's pretty cool.
Thanks, Andrew. And Evan, based on your co-ops, I maybe have an idea of where you're going to go with that, but why don't you go next? And then, after that, maybe Evan, you can start us also just giving us a brief overview of kind of your time at Northeastern and what led you to your different co-op experiences.
Sure. So yeah, I'm Evan, third year doing entrepreneurship and marketing, just from outside of Boston in Needham, Massachusetts, about 25 minutes away. And the topic that I, obviously keep coming back to, as I'll explain later, is solar, and specifically solar plus storage, really into that kind of stuff. So I guess going into the next question, what led me to my co-ops? So freshman year, I was participating in the Husky Startup Challenge. For those of you who don't know, it's an event hosted by eClub. And basically you're supposed to come up with an idea for a company and, work out the kinks and try to get it off the ground. So for that, I tried to start a solar developer, basically. So it turns out that's really hard. And what I kept hearing from people is you need industry experience. So right away, I set my sights on getting a co-op in the solar space, which led me to Energy Stage, where I sort of helped support their sales team, sort of top of the funnel sales qualification. and then just, fell in love with impact related stuff, solar related stuff, and now at BCG on their energy marketing team, working not quite with solar, more about transition from oil and gas to more renewable sources of energy. So working a little bit on the other side of the spectrum.
Great, thanks, Evan. Andrew, do you want to maybe give us your quick overview?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of got interested in the sustainability community at Northeastern pretty early on, but was very undecided within finance. So I took the first co-op I got for my first co-op and ended up being an internal accounting role, and I absolutely hated it. But with that, I really had a limited range of options that I could go down for my second one because I basically had no experience still. So I went into a broader corporate finance accounting role, doing like FP&A, purchasing, a few accounting things as well. Also while being involved in Net Impact, which is another club on campus focused on sustainability and stuff like that. And for my third co-op, I just knew I've been involved in sustainability at Northeastern for a while, and I knew I wanted to kind of jump over and incorporate it somehow into my career. And I'd heard great things about like the sustainable investment and ESG teams at Wellington. I definitely wanted to try to get on one of those positions, and so that's kind of what I went after.
Sounds great. Yeah, and Izzy, why don't you bring us home?
Sure. So I actually came into Northeastern undeclared, really did not have any idea what I wanted to do. I was interested in business as a possibility, but I think there was just something holding me back. I did really enjoy a social impact side. So I got to go through the exploratory program and basically take a bunch of random classes. So I did some in like international affairs, political science, but I took global social entrepreneurship randomly my second semester of my freshman year. And that kind of like clicked for me that that's the space I wanted to be in. So from there, obviously social entrepreneurship is still a huge space. So finding out where I fit was definitely a journey. So I started, my first co-op was actually at iCater within the Pine Street Inn. So that's a small social enterprise. In and of itself, it's a catering business to the Pine Street Inn and other big nonprofits and homeless shelters, things like that. But it was also a job training program for people transitioning out of homelessness. So that was a really interesting role. From there, I kind of wanted to move more towards the finance side because I thought that was going to be more what I was interested in, and kind of along that time found the world of impact investing. So that's when I moved to Wellington as a kind of transition into that space. My role specifically was focused on impact measurement and management. So still kind of like a skill set I was comfortable in, but also kind of transitioning into the finance world where I really didn't have any prior experience. And now kind of with that transition, I feel like I've moved into my role at MassCEC, which is basically early stage investing in companies solving environmental issues. So that's where I'm at now. I'm really enjoying it.
Sounds great. Thank you all. One of the things I think I heard from each of you, and probably is not all that uncommon for students at Northeastern, is you kind of start out with not a bunch of skill set. You try to prioritize, getting stuff on your resume, but at the same time, especially within this group, you have certain passions, areas you really want to work in. If you could just do an end around and end up in your dream job, you would, but there's always considerations between, purely pursuing your passions and then trying to build out your resume maybe in other ways and try to get a diverse skill set. So I just was curious if any of you had any thoughts or had any considerations when you were making your co-op decisions, when you were applying to co-ops at each stage, balancing those two areas between directly being very passionate about a certain topic, only considering jobs in this area, but also maybe trying to consider building out your resume, maybe with more traditional skills, maybe whether it be finance and whatever your majors are. And I'll open that up to anyone who wants to go first.
I'm happy to kick it off. For me, I came into it very specified, and I was not too concerned about the generalization of skills. I'm of the mind that if you can specialize in something and make yourself invaluable in that skill set, that's a plus. Especially when we're talking about impact fields, that's where job growth is going to be. So making yourself valuable in that aspect is a pretty good bet for your career trajectory. I'd say from my first co-op at Energy Sage, now co-oping at BCG. Obviously, BCG is a very well-known company, and so I guess in that sense, I did take a slightly less renewables focused role in trade for the brand name, but still knowing that I was going to be doing work on the transition from oil and gas to renewable sources sort of helped me justify that trade-off.
I guess for me, it was definitely my co-op progression was a pretty natural progression. So while I knew I wanted to be in a social impact space starting off, I didn't really know where that is or was going to be specifically. So for my first co-op, that was in like a place I love the mission, it was kind of directly related to what I shared to be the impact area I'm most passionate about, just transitioning out of homelessness, job training, all that. But I didn't really like the work so much. It was a very operational role. So that was kind of a big learning experience for me. It was that, maybe that wasn't the space I wanted to be in, but still I think, finding skills that I learned being in an operational role was important to carry on. So, I mean, for my second co-op, moving into Wellington again, kind of like Evan was saying, a big name brand, a good way to transition into the finance space by just even having Wellington on my resume, even though honestly, my position, I wasn't really doing much with finance at all. So that was definitely something that I considered and, had a great experience there, luckily. Not necessarily my end goal for a career. And that's why I've really tried to use this third co-op to really kind of prime me for where I want to be, which is kind of the earlier stage VC impact space, which is definitely a hard space to get into and something I've definitely struggled with, like how much should I just go down a traditional finance route to gain those skills and get into the VC space because that's what's been done in the past to get there. But then again, I knew like that's not fulfilling to me and really I would not enjoy that. So I guess I've tried to find ways to circumvent that traditional path and hopefully it'll work out post-grad, but yeah, that's what I can say right now.
Yeah, so I guess like to be kind of frank, maybe the reason why I didn't get into impact as early on was just because I literally could not get an interview at any of these co-ops. Like, I think that there's like, don't get me wrong, there's definitely a lot more sustainability oriented roles at Northeastern now. But when I was applying for my first and even for my second one, there were a lot more limitations there. And I also didn't really have any demonstrated interest like on my resume, like even though I was doing stuff in clubs, I never really like highlighted it at all. And I think that that's something that maybe I changed for my third co-op when I was like, okay, I don't really want to compromise anymore by taking these roles that I hate in like corporate finance. And I was like, okay, so I'm just gonna really push my interest in sustainability and the work I did with Net Impact. And that's kind of how I ended up getting, and this past co-op cycle, I ended up interviewing for a few sustainable oriented roles. So I guess it worked. And I was super happy to end up at Wellington. So yeah, I guess maybe it's, I was interested in sustainability for a while, but was never able to kind of make that transition over until now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and obviously from when I was on co-op to even now, there's gradual increases. Evan was saying this is where a lot of industries are going. So not surprising there'll be a slow uptick in impact, clean energy related co-ops, but it is, still somewhat niche. So it's kind of hard to find it. I guess on that note, you've mentioned that some of you just didn't know what co-ops existed, how to apply, what you needed on your resume. Thinking back on where you were applying to your first, second, or third co-op and kind of what you learned along the way, do you have any advice that you've taken away that you would tell your younger self on either how to think about co-op searching, how to network, how to prepare for interviews, anything that you think would just be valuable to know? Again, we'll kick it off to anyone who wants to take it.
I can start with that. I think definitely for the first co-op, that's just a tough one. You don't have a lot of experience going in, so ultimately you're just going to kind of take the opportunities that come to you and make do with that. And so, I would just say, especially if it's your first co-op, like try not to put a ton of pressure on that. I know it's very hard, especially when you're seeing other people doing cool things and you want to be doing that too. But, sometimes it just does take time and experience. And so, with that, I would say early on, if you have an idea, I feel like I was lucky I found what kind of the space I wanted to be in my freshman year. So I had some time to prep myself for that space. But early on, if you do have an idea of like, especially if it's sustainability, I definitely echo what what Andrew said, there's not a lot of opportunities in the space, so it does get pretty competitive. But just try to find some experiences that tie into that kind of set you apart. So just like as an example, for my freshman year, my spring semester, I went on an alternative spring break program in the Dominican Republic focused on microfinance. Kind of the summer after that, Andrew and I actually went on a dialogue together in South Africa focused on global or social entrepreneurship. So again, just trying to find those like unique experiences that set you apart. It could also just be like volunteering or being really passionate about a sustainability focused club that ties into your interest area. But I guess, again, like try not to put pressure on it because it will work out in the end. You do have many chances to get a good co-op you like, but also finding experiences that tie into your end goal early on.
Yeah, kind of just to add on to what Izzy said, I think that obviously a first co-op is kind of just, who knows what's going to happen with that. I will say that it's helpful for people who are looking for their first one or maybe even your second one. The earlier you have an idea of what you potentially want to do in the future, the better, because the more you can kind of set yourself up for success in the roles that you do prior, like just the better. Because as someone who worked in co-ops that weren't related to sustainability for my first two, I didn't really like have like a natural progression like Izzy or Evan did, but I wish I did, because I think it would have been a way better like co-op trajectory and even for help with the full-time search. So I'd say that would be a piece of advice, is kind of just be like a little more thoughtful than I was when I was looking for things, and maybe like be a little picky when you can. And then also second thing would just be like demonstrated interest. So yeah, as you mentioned, we both went on dialogue, doing like micro consulting, social enterprise work. And I think I mentioned it, yeah, like putting sustainability things that I've done on my resume. I think just a lot of employers in the sustainability space are just looking for someone who's passionate about it as well, even more so than the technical capabilities that you have sometimes.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add, but just to echo Andrew, what he was saying at the end there, it's really about demonstrating your passion. I think for me, at Energy Sage, it was all about demonstrating my knowledge of solar. Even though my role was fairly simple there, and quite frankly, anyone could have done it. But it was the way I presented myself and the knowledge I had, and I think it's definitely, take some time to prepare, for your interviews, really prepare and research the company. And if you're going into like a role about solar, the week leading up to your interview, you should be reading the news for solar articles, and you can be like, oh, did you see this popped up in the news the other day? Like, I think has some really interesting implications for the industry. And bam, right there, they know you're engaged, they know you're plugged in, even if you're not really, it appears as if you are. And obviously you don't want to lie, but it's all about putting your best self forward is what I would say.
Yeah, it sounds like everyone's kind of saying, try to think ahead, set yourself up for success. If you can talk pretty in a relaxed way, but genuinely about a topic you're genuinely interested in, the interview is going to go way better. On that point, it made me think about, one of my co-ops. When I think about the thing that got it for me was I didn't know this was going to happen, but at the end of it, they asked if I had a writing sample. And just because I'd been thinking about this space for a while, in my English class, we had a term paper you could write about any topic in the world, started to write about impact investing, and that was just great. I had a 15-page paper ready to send them on impact investing. I think that sold the job. On that note, this may not occur for everyone, but if you think about maybe even your most recent co-op interview, is there any one story or event or conversation that you feel like that really sold me? It really came across how much I knew about the topic. They could tell I was passionate, or this past event, club event, class project I'd worked on really helped demonstrate my interest and really helped me get the job.
Yeah, I can go first. For the co-op I'm actually in, one of the questions, or it wasn't even a question, but she kind of just informally brought up the fact this was in like during like election time kind of situation. So she kind of just brought up the fact like that like, oh yeah, like the future of sustainable investments will look a lot different in the next 4 years depending on what happens with the election. And I know you're definitely not supposed to talk politics in an interview, but we ended up talking about like basically what the outcome would be if Biden won, and talked about like, I guess, policy stuff from like oh, like what's gonna, like how will sustainable or how will the environment be affected by different policies and that Biden has like proposed so far, like in his like campaign. And I think that just being aware of current events and like having looked into Biden's like climate policy before the interview, not even like that was just something that I was genuinely interested in and passionate about, really helped sell me as someone who was like passionate about the subject and was like knowledgeable about what was going on currently in the world as well.
I think for me, one experience I feel really helped set me apart was on the dialogue, actually. So the second half of the dialogue we went on in South Africa was, we spent a week during like service learning and engagement, where we basically went into the community and kind of got to see some of the natural issues and problems they were facing. And then the last week we actually spent it doing a design thinking project around the problem we identified and trying to come up with a solution. So I did my problem on gender-based violence in the South African townships. So specifically for my Wellington interview, I remember talking about that a lot, and just what I had noticed in the communities and kind of the solution we helped propose. That was a research-based role. So being able to bring in that research experience definitely was helpful, because that tied exactly into the skill set they were looking for. It was kind of interesting because even, so, that happened, you interview in, say, October, I started in January, and months into my position, my boss actually brought up that experience when she was introducing me to someone else who was working on an advancement of women portfolio at Wellington. So that just showed me that she actually, remembered that experience and remembered me talking about it. And it was something that caught her interest too.
Yeah, I think I had a bit of a not like an uncommon experience. Having ended up starting this really successful solar business, I sort of had a pretty sizable in with anything in energy related. But something that I prepared for, because I figured it would come up, was this role, as I mentioned, was working with oil and gas companies as well as utilities. But on the oil and gas side, my now boss, asked me in the interview, said, great, really cool that you're passionate about renewables. Awesome. You started this company and it's worked out, but, you're not going to be doing a lot of stuff with renewables. How do you feel about that? And I had this great answer prepared about how like we still have to use byproducts from, oil refining and all that stuff, and how it's a necessary evil for now as we transition to a cleaner energy mix, and just having that answer prepared and covering my bases, I think left a really good impression. And she said like, wow, that was a really well thought out answer. And after I got hired, it was clear that sort of helped seal the deal, was being able to show that I wasn't just a renewables person, but I was understood the full picture.
Yeah, sounds like, obviously this helps being in an impact space, but the more you can align your genuine interests with the roles you're going after, the easier the conversation is going to be, and the more likely you'll be prepared to have a good story. And it's sometimes not even the stuff you think will come up that sells you. So I guess moving into more of the nuts and bolts of your co-ops, can you I know you're each just started co-op this semester, only been a few months, but can you briefly maybe talk about what you do on the job from a day-to-day, what your least favorite is about the job, and maybe for those who haven't done it before, a quick tip on working remote on co-op if you are doing remote co-op.
Sorry, you said just day-to-day.
Yeah, what you do in your
least
current
favorite thing.
job, and yeah, just talk about it. Favorite, least favorite, day-to-day, and remote co-op tips.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can go first. So day-to-day, I think in my role, there isn't really a day-to-day. It's very much a project-based role, and a very much long-term goal-oriented role. So I think that I really enjoy that environment and kind of being able to work on more big picture stuff instead of like more process-based, like time-sensitive things that just like personally what I enjoy more after having done kind of co-ops in both situations. So I guess project-wise, I'm working on like all things related to Wellington's policies on sustainable investment, as well as like being generally informed of like government body regulations on sustainable finance, and that since that influences what Wellington does with its sustainable investments. And maybe a favorite thing that I'm working on right now is I'm working on a modern slavery project that I'm kind of like co-leading with my manager, looking at like what is modern slavery, where does it appear in supply chains, how can business, like what are best practices for businesses to avoid it, and then hopefully like we're in the process of putting together a panel of companies that have best practices against modern slavery, collaborating with some NGOs right now, and ultimately kind of writing a white paper to go to investment teams and PMs on how they can incorporate modern slavery into their due diligence process when they're screening their investments.
Yeah, so I guess similar to Andrew, my day-to-day isn't too defined, which is actually something I really like, sort of like being kept on my toes and doing things as they come up. But I guess the most day-to-day activity I have is working on their BCG's account-based marketing, which is just really tailoring the marketing efforts of BCG towards the client specifically, picking out certain reports they might like, writing the emails, pulling all sorts of data and metrics on open rates and click rates and all that good stuff, because I am in a marketing role. I'd say the favorite thing that's popped up for this co-op is sort of unexpectedly, I was asked to design an ad campaign for an international policy organization in the oil and gas space, which has been really awesome. Actually, it's been a lot of fun, a little bit of stress, a little bit of fun. It sort of just plopped on my desk. And yeah, it's just been great, being able to create the creatives for this campaign, come up with the catchphrases, the images, all that stuff. And it's been an awesome experience for me to have that aspect of my co-op that wasn't part of the job description. So
my day-to-day definitely also changes a lot, but I also really like not being stuck with monotonous tasks, so that's nice. So my role, I'm in a small team with 4 other people, so it's a very flat structure where we're all kind of working on the same things. So a lot of it is looking at new investment opportunities, hearing investor pitches, kind of listening to those, seeing if there's stuff we want to pursue. It does kind of ebb and flow with the due diligence process based on if there are deals they're pursuing or if it's like a follow-on investment deal they're pursuing. So that kind of changes a lot. Mass CEC is also a very like entrepreneur friendly, active investor. So I've also gotten to sit in on some really cool calls where it's been kind of the managing director and a few other team members working with a young entrepreneur starting out developing her fundraising strategy because it's her first time doing that, and just being able to have investor insights and input into that process is really helpful. So those have also been just like a cool thing to sit in on. The main kind of project I'm working on now, which I believe all Mass CEC co-ops in this position start off with this, just timing wise, is like a semi-annual request for information process. So that's reaching out to all 30 of Mass CEC's portfolio companies and doing some of like dry work of just kind of collecting data information, inputting that, but it also leads up to like 30-minute calls with each of these portfolio companies to just check in on how they're doing and how we can support them. So, there is a little bit of like boring side to that, but then also just being able to like put faces to the portfolio companies they're talking about and understand like where they're all at and the different stages they're at has been really interesting too.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And we probably have time for one more question for everyone before we head out to the breakout rooms. So my last question, since you're all either seniors or close to seniors, is with all your co-op experiences so far, what if you had to describe, your dream impact related job, as you understand it right now, what would it be? Would it be returning to your current co-ops full time? maybe Evan, you want to go back and continue to develop your own company, your own founder. Yeah, do you have any ideas of things you might want to start pursuing after graduation?
I'll go first. Let Andrew take a break from going first all the time. Yeah. So I mean, I guess my dream is to continue. My solar company had some really unexpected success, quite frankly, and it's been great to see the growth that's happened through that. Learned a lot about the industry, and had some pretty cool achievements in terms of what we've accomplished. So definitely continue to expand on that and work on that is what's taking up most of my time outside of BCG, and then what I foresee taking up my time in the near future. So.
I think for me, I definitely do like being at a social impact investing VC. So ideally, that's what I'd like to be doing post graduation. Right now, like I mentioned, my role is like focused on companies solving environmental issues, which is definitely really interesting and been like a great learning experience, considering a lot of my background has come from more of like the social impact side as opposed to like the environmental impact side. But with that said, I definitely do still like the social impact side. So maybe, an impact VC that focuses on both social and environmental solutions to a wide range of problems would be really interesting. So yeah, we'll see if I can find it, but that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I am pretty undecided right now in terms of what I want to do after graduation. I definitely love working in like an impact role, and I know I want to continue in something related to sustainability or social justice. But I think that if anything, going into co-op, I was like, okay, I think I want to do sustainable investments, but now that I'm in it, I've had so much exposure to a bunch of different areas within sustainability and the finance world in general that a lot more career paths that I was unaware of have suddenly become available that I like didn't even know about. So I don't really have a good answer for this question, but it's probably just something sustainability or impact related.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, thanks everyone, for answering all my questions. I think we're probably gonna hop into some breakout rooms soon. I probably should have given a little more background off the top, but if anyone's interested in talking more about clean energy, obviously Evan's your guy, but I also work at Invenergy as a renewable energy developer, finance market. So if anyone wants to talk about that, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. My previous co-ops also quickly were portfolio finance reporting at MFS. Similar to a lot of people, I didn't like my first co-op. It was just the first one I took. Then I went to work at Ceres, which is a nonprofit based in Boston doing ESG focused shareholder engagement. And then finally a co-op at Sperry Capital, which is out in the Bay Area. They're a project finance advisory firm. But yeah, with all that, thanks everyone for hopping on. Hope you stick with us through the breakout rooms, and Jordan, I think you're up.
All right, I'm going to open all the breakout rooms now, and everyone can choose which one they want to go to.
Jordan, my laptop doesn't have the updated version. Could you move me to Izzy's room?
I can do that.
Thank you.
Evan's room.
Oh, and I see that no one's in Andrew's room at the moment. So should we? I'll just like hop in and say to like wait, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it went really well. I thought the content was really interesting.
Did Ben ask to go to Evan's room, or did I?
Oh, I didn't hear that. Ben, did you want to go to Evan's room?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was just saying, I thought that went really well, that the content was like really solid.
I agree. I like that. It's also interesting because I've never, I don't know too much about the impact space, so it's cool to hear about it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I just told Andrew to like take a little break before to see if anyone comes. So he doesn't have to just like talk with me if he doesn't want to.
Makes sense. Jordan, is the workshop with Mark, is that also at 7 to 8?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I don't know if this is the case, but I'm thinking that 7 to 8 might be a busy time, like zone. I know we did 6 to 7 last semester. So I'm wondering if that might be a better time, not necessarily for that event, but for events after that. But honestly, I'm not entirely sure. But
I think we have the one after Mark's is at 6 with 11 spoonfuls.
I know Net
Okay.
Impact meets every week at 7, Spencer.
Yeah, that does make it a little bit tough.
Like, it doesn't really matter, but like, you know, the polite thing to do as a superior impact club would be to schedule our events at a different time. But
Yeah, I mean, we could always ask Mark if he's like able to do 6 to 7.
I can ask him, yeah.
Might as well. But if not, 7 to 8 should be fine.
He also has not gotten back to me, but I'm not too worried yet. I'll reach out.
Yeah, when you follow up, just follow up generally, and then also maybe just throw in the time change, see what he says. Usually takes a few emails to get back to people.
Gotcha.
do you guys know how many people went to the other breakout rooms?
What do you mean, like other breakout rooms?
Like not Andrew.
There's 3 in Izzy's and 4 in Evan's.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the looks like the only non-NU impact person is in Izzy's, but
Okay.
still
I mean,
valuable for any background
yeah,
as
that's
well.
fine.
So yeah, for sure. Jordan, is the plan to kind of just let them write it out until they decide to drop off, or?
I was gonna bring everyone back together at the end.
Yeah, that sounds good too.
How long are these supposed to be open for?
We have it for 7:55.
Gotcha.
I kind of feel bad. Andrew's just like sitting in the other room by himself.
I know.
It's all good. I'm sure it's fine.
Should have done a better job selling his co-ops.
Jeez.
Just kidding.
Should I broadcast them a message and let them know they have 10 minutes? Or should I just leave it?
That's a good question.
I feel like you could maybe say just in case anyone wants to like hop to a different room.
Okay, that's
Mm.
smart. Can they do that? Can they choose like a different room to go to?
Yeah, I think they should be able to.
Okay, cool.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Am I good to hop off or do I need to stick around?
I will defer that to the events team because I'm not sure what exactly. Jordan, are we just running through the slides at 1 second? We bring everyone back, or
Yeah, once we close them in like 5 minutes, we're just gonna go over like how to stay involved and then the future events once again.
yes, you could probably hop off. That's probably
Okay, thanks so much for organizing this, guys.
for sure.
Thank you,
Thanks so much for
Andrew.
taking part.
Thank you for
Bye.
speaking.
No one's dropped off of the breakout rooms yet, so that's good.
Yeah, it's like surprising to me.
Must be going well.
Yeah. Jordan, how are your classes going this semester?
Not too bad. I'm just taking some of the like health science classes
Yeah,
and like physics.
nice. What health science classes?
I'm in communication for healthcare and healthcare policy administration.
Nice. Who do you have for policy and administration?
Hewer, Jennifer Hewer.
Okay, I don't know her.
Have you taken it?
Yeah, I took it last semester. I had a different woman though.
Did you have Bauer?
Her name was Amy Hepburn or something, or
Oh.
Helburn or something.
No.
Justine, what about you? Are you on classes or co-op?
On classes. I'm on my first co-op search though, but I actually just got an interview for Monday, so I'm like nervous now.
Nice. Where's the interview?
It's for BCG for the client team in marketing co-op.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Very cool. What classes are you taking?
I'm a combined business and communication major. So I'm taking a mix of business and comms. I'm taking communication in a digital age, public speaking, which is like
I took that class.
helpful, I guess.
But
Um,
public speaking online is kind of funny to me.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
that's kind of defeats the purpose a little bit.
yeah, it's like, it's helpful. Like it'll be helpful when I like start interviewing, I know. And then financial management and managerial accounting, which are like low-key both the same thing, kind of.
You said managerial and what was the second one?
Financial management.
Financial management. Okay. Yes, there's a lot of overlap, but that's kind of nice that you're taking it at the same time though. So that
Yeah.
should be easier. Hey Charlie.
You're muted, Charlie, if you're talking to us.
Sorry. I think I would have like figured that out by now after like a year.
All good.
Yeah, I was just in Evan's breakout room. But cool. Well, I'm gonna hop, everyone, but thanks for having me. I'll talk to most of you at the next alumni call.
Yeah. Thanks, Charlie.
Sounds good. Thanks, Charlie.
So, oh, and Spencer, send me the marketing materials whenever you get them. All
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
See ya.
We'll do.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, just wanted to give a quick thank you. It was a lot of fun. So hope to see you guys sometime in the future.
For sure. Thanks for taking
Thanks,
part.
Evan.
Thank you.
All right, I think I'm just gonna end Izzy's.
I think they left. Looking at the participant, maybe. I know they're
Izzy
still
still
there.
has 30.
And now
Yep,
they're
he's
still there.
Never mind.
Ooh,
I'm just gonna close
that's
them.
good.
How was Evan's breakout, Rachel?
It was really good. It was just like really nice to hear about all of his really impressive things. So.
Nice.
Hello. Hi, Anna. Good to see you. All right, so we're all here. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Well, thanks for coming, everyone. I was just going to share some. There we go. So if you guys want to stay involved, you can scan this QR code. We're all really a part of NU Impact. Anna, go ahead if you would like. But yeah, once again, our events, we have an event next Wednesday with Mark Bernfeld about due diligence, and our conference is coming up April 3rd. All right, thanks for coming out, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Good job, team.
Yay.
Thanks, Spencer.
All right, good night.
Night.
Let's go.